Hi, everybody. Happy 2021. I have to remind myself, I know Elle, my producer, and Amanda, we have to remind ourselves we're in a new year, and we're going to talk all about coping, mental health, and how you can make your life better for you and your family. I know it's been a struggle because we've been through so much last year, but putting that in the past and moving forward, how do we do that? We have quite a panel. I can't even believe who's with us tonight. I'm so excited. I hope you'll keep watching because we're going to talk about our health when we talk about nutrition, but like the inside. We're also going to talk about mental health, also the inside, almost equally as important. And we have quite a panel tonight. Jess Wolselin is with us. She's a nutrition and wellness coach, founder of Bliss by Wellness. That sounds so good, Jess. I need bliss right now. And I was just sharing with people that this is the worst I've ever eaten. And I'm sure I've gained so much weight. And I feel okay saying this on Facebook because my family and my friends are on Facebook, and we're all family and friends. And social media is such a powerful tool to promote wellness. And you have several tips that you can give our people watching right now that they haven't seen on television. That's your promo there. What exactly can we do to maintain our healthy lifestyle during COVID-19?
Yes. So food, we know food is a comfort. So you are not alone in, people call it all kinds of things these days. But outside of weight and, for many reasons, we all want to eat better. So where do you even start with that? There's something that everyone can do, and that's simply just cut out the processed foods. That sounds very simple, but that's step one. We want to turn to these quick freezer meals, these freezer pizzas, and sometimes it's really helpful. But what you'll also find in your freezer aisle are frozen berries, frozen vegetables, oftentimes on sale and very accessible. So it's all about really what you're doing and specifically, how are you starting your day? If you can change one thing in your entire routine, maybe just look at what you start your day with. And if that's swapping a sugary bowl of cereal or a quick waffle for perhaps a smoothie that you can throw a lot of things into, that would make a huge difference in your choices for the rest of the day.
So let's say if we're on a budget, the best way you say to do that, again, a spouse has lost their job, we've lost our job, and we're on that tight income, what's the best thing we can do if we're food insecure?
Yeah. So again, the freezer is your best friend. So anything I buy, whether it's produce or meat or anything like that, I don't waste anything, even down to herbs. When you cook with something, you can take something like an herb, it's going to go bad in your fridge, something like that. Just put it in a Ziploc, put it in your freezer, and throw it right in a pan with some oil when you're ready to use it or cook with it again. The other thing is canned goods. There is absolutely nothing wrong with a canned corn or, canned carrots, canned vegetables. Nothing wrong with that. You can throw together a really nice soup with a nice broth and very nourishing meal that's very clean, healthy for you, and also makes you feel good inside and boost the immunity, especially during these times. And that's all within, the $1, $2 range. And again, you make a big soup, freeze the rest. There you go.
How do I stop stress eating? Because I'm watching so much Netflix now. I'm in love with so many of these series, and then they make it so easy. You keep watching it all day, and then you're just stuffing your face. How do you prevent yourself from stress eating? What are some tips?
Yeah, so I always tell people that you want to aim for 3 meals a day. And that doesn't mean you can't snack in between. But if you're actually having 3 full meals, including breakfast, which I know a lot of people tend to skip, you won't be as apt to be snacking as much. So when you are, feeling that stress eating, if you have a meal full of protein and fiber and enough nutrients in there, when you go to snack, you might do it at first out of habit, but you won't have that craving like you're so hungry, and it will eventually stop. The other thing is, celery, carrots with dips, hummus, things like this. If you maybe keep these things in your fridge and accessible, you might grab for that instead of some of the other things.
I think you're making me hungry now. It's like the opposite effect. I want to get my Cheetos now, but no, I understand. Yeah. That's such a good idea. And my mom always told me that. It's like, it's age-old advice, but if you could just remember it and execute it and just make a decision to start small. I love that idea. Now, going on to mental health, we have Lauren. Oh, Lauren, I'm so excited about this. We can all benefit from Lauren's advice with Black Girls Smile. What a beautiful organization. And it's so important for our young girls. We are stuck inside and our children are stuck inside. And as moms, we feel powerless to make sure our kids are in the right mental space. I guess, how do you help these young girls in your organization especially? What are the best things that you can tell right now, a mom and a dad, to help their young people?
Really focusing on your emotional well-being. So that's teaching your children really young about emotional intelligence and how to express your emotions, how to cope with difficult situations, whether it's loss. It could be a very small loss of a toy, but it could even be something like the things that we're dealing with now, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a friend. This is an unprecedented time for mental health. And I think that in many ways, it's creating an opportunity for people to really ask for help. So therapy is one of the biggest things that I personally push. And also we as an organization, we started a therapy scholarship fund during COVID to assist young women with seeking professional help to cope with the various stressors that they're experiencing right now.
Oh my God, that is so exciting. That is such a great idea, because a lot of times you can't afford therapy, but it's so much easier now because you can Zoom and you can bring it right into your home, but maybe you can't afford it and then your organization's doing that's beautiful. The statistic is alarming. I mean, look at it. What is it? 40%. Look at that. More than 40% of US residents experience mental or behavioral concerns. Now, this is since the pandemic began. And are you surprised by that number? And explain to me why you're probably not surprised.
I'm not. I think that right now we're all being tested in various ways. There's no one who's getting through this time unscathed. So I think that it is an opportunity for us to really evaluate how we cope with stress, trauma, difficult situations, grief. These are the things that really play into our mental health, but also how we show up in the world. If we are not handling grief well, if we're not handling trauma well, if we're not communicating with our partner, with our children, with our family members well, that takes a toll. And everything is mixed together right now. Work is home and home is work and family or friends. It's all kind of muddled together, and your mental health really plays a part in how you feel right now, but also how you show up right now.
Yeah, and the numbers are staggering. 9.7% of our youth have severe depression. And depression is such a tricky thing, because when you are in a pandemic, you can't always necessarily go out and use your socialize with people. So you have to find other ways. So I guess, is talking about it the most important thing? And how do you start that important conversation with your kids?
Yeah, having a conversation with your children. I use the cliche term, feel the feels. As I mentioned before, there's a lot going on, and whether it's health issues, whether it's community issues, financial issues, racial issues, equality and equity issues, these are all things that we should be discussing with our children, because it's impacting them in various ways, whether it's through social media, the news, or just hearing their parents talk about it. These are things that are impacting their lives. A lot of children are either not at school. We're hearing that from college students. They're now at home in situations where they thought that they would have a lot more autonomy right now. So a lot of people are really struggling, but there are a few things that you can focus on. One, asking for help. So working with a licensed mental health professional. And I don't feel like you have to go to therapy if things are wrong. You can go to therapy when everything's doing well as well. But also focusing on your coping skills and self-care methods. Self-care has become quite a buzzword and has been associated with luxury experiences. But right now, self-care is anything that you can do that's positive and healthy that helps renew and recharge you. For me, that's coloring books. I'm over 30 years old, and I have coloring books throughout my home, and even brought back gel pens, because I needed something that was an outlet, something that made me feel joy and also relaxed amidst everything that's going on in the world right now. So I really encourage coping skills and then focusing on your self-care methods as well.
I love that. And you can always help other people, right? If you have, someone needs a phone call, or you check in on a friend, or check in on a senior maybe in your family that may need a nice hello. But those are great tips. And Josh, let's talk about men, the men in our lives. There can be stigma around men and mental health. Can you talk to me a little bit about how maybe that's changing in 2021, or you hope it's changing?
I mean, I do hope it's changing, and I think it has. I think the more that people are out there, and the more that men are out there talking about mental health in a different way. I always try to explain it as it's kind of the gym for your insides, right? That we go to the gym to exercise and feel better. Nobody says, "Oh, you're still going to the gym? Are you done yet?" So the mental health and focusing on your insides is it's like I guess it's kind of, think of it as the gym for your insides, and I think that's that's one of the ways that we can begin to take the stigma away, because when men do that work, you can just see them grow in just amazing ways.
Wow. How do you start the conversation? Just like with your kids, how do you start that conversation?
Well, you mean if someone is in therapy for the first time, or if it's somebody that you care about? If it's somebody that you care about, I think the way to get to, men failure is kryptonite for men. And so to say to the man or a man in your life, I think you need to get some therapy. Right away, what they hear is I'm failing, I'm not being effective, I'm not producing in the way that I need to be doing. And it just doesn't work. So if you could say to them, let them know, I see how hard you're working, and I see what you're doing, and I see how much you're busting your butt. And I can also see, because of how hard you're working, you're struggling. I don't want you to be struggling as much as you're struggling. I think that's a way to get to them, to let them know it's not this punishment for getting it wrong, but instead having compassion for seeing how hard they are working, and they don't have to struggle and suffer as much as they may be suffering.
God, I can just listen to you all day. That's such good stuff, because a lot of times, like, I know I get offended if someone says you're crazy, and just being that putting it that way is like a game changer in opening up to each other. I think that's such a good tip. And I guess these conversations that we're having during COVID, have things changed in the mental health realm for men, or is it still the same issues? But since we're in such tight quarters, I know a lot of relationships are suffering right now. What kind of tips can you give, let's say, a woman who's had it with her boyfriend, or maybe just has had it, and they need just one thing to hang on to? What's your biggest suggestion? Is it to listen as opposed to open up your mouth?
So a couple of things. So first, I have a few things. So I tend to always tell people, sort of what I call my first rule of couples therapy, is to understand that there are two opposite experiences happening simultaneously, and they are both true. And this is even more important now when we're all kind of locked up together. All of our problems kind of are on creatine now. So if you can have both people understand that, because we so much end up sort of arguing over what the, quote unquote facts of the situation are. And if you can understand that someone else is having a completely opposite experience from you, and it's also true, then hopefully we can begin to try to understand what's going on for the other person, as opposed to telling them, no, that's not what happened. Actually, it's this. And then the other thing that I tell people is that if I were to say, if I had a minute and a half with a couple, I would say, and again, especially now, because we're all so amped up close together, stop punishing for bad behavior and start rewarding for good. It's such an easy, it's in our wiring that we want to punish for bad behavior. You go, why did you do this? I don't like that, or that's not how you do that, or da-da. And our nervous system is such that we are wired to stay away from punishment. So when you start punishing for bad behavior, the person is going to begin to sort of be on the outskirts of the relationship. And you can feel that. Women can feel it, especially when the guy that they're with is sort of on the outside, not really there, not really present. And that's when, usually women will go, where are you? And it's the guy trying to get it right by avoiding punishment, as opposed to rewarding for good behavior. If you say to someone, hey, you did this, and I love that you did that. And sometimes you kind of, for a guy, you have to punch it so they really get it. But if you go, I love that you did that, that made me so happy, they will want to do that all day. So it's really, again, trying to, again, calm yourself down, because we are all so amped up right now. Calm yourself down, say, I loved that. That was great. And even if you could do a little more, rewarding for good behavior, because our nervous systems are so primed for reward and so also primed to avoid punishment.
So good. That was so good. I really need this show. I need this show. I could listen to you all day. And, just a round robin real quick to end. We always like to end this show with hope. And, one thing that you can do right away, and I have to start off again with, if it's okay, let's start off with our Jess. What is one thing that people watching, it can be a game changer for them during COVID to improve their health and their nutrition?
I would say, again, look at the first half of your day. If you can only commit to changing the first half of your day, your breakfast, the way you wake up, your mindset included in that, that will change your entire day, and it gives you half of the burden or pressure to worry about.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to start doing that. I don't eat breakfast sometimes, and that's a problem. I should eat something, right? That's a problem. Lauren.
Give yourself grace. We will recalibrate. We've recalibrated thus far to these new experiences. So give yourself grace in this time. It's unprecedented, but you'll get through it. We'll get through it. Believe that.
I love it. And that's like, be easier on yourself, because we're so hard on ourselves. My gosh. And that voice inside your head. Oh my gosh. And Jill, I love that Jill just commented. She goes, what else would you say to a couple if you only had a minute 30? And I think she was talking about when we were talking about Josh, like just a minute 30. But a lot of times that's all you have. A New York minute is what it's called. But what's one thing that people can do to improve their mental health, especially the men in our lives?
So, I'm a big believer in, there's a great Stoic quote, which basically is, the obstacle is the way. And we all have so many obstacles or what feels like so many obstacles in our way right now. And if you ask anybody, what was a time in your life of major growth, or what was a time in your life where that was just a life-changing moment for you, they'll always tell you a story about when there was a huge obstacle in their way, when something really difficult was going on. So I think understanding that the obstacle, the impediment to action, is actually always the thing that's going to show you the way that you need to go, is actually the thing that's going to spark action. That can be, it's been a game changer for me. It can be a game changer for anyone, understanding that the thing that's in your way is actually showing you the way that you actually need to be going.
I love that. I love to look a whole different perspective. You've shifted my perspective in relationships. Josh, that was incredible. And I see a Mets hat behind you. Is that right? Is that what I see? I think.
Yes, that's a Mets hat. Yeah.
Okay, we got the message. Thank you. This was a great panel, and I hope everyone got one little nugget, I hope you got something from our show. And just remember, there's always help. So always seek help if you need it. Professional help, that is. And we're always here at Pix 11. We are still making it happen at 5:45 every night. Don't forget to watch Pix 11 News. Thanks, everybody. We're making it happen.